Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with the esteemed Dr. Eric Lopkin. So we're just coming off the Super Bowl. I thought it was, it was one of the greatest Super Bowls, but it was exciting in terms of Brady, I guess number 7 at this point. An amazing feat, especially at 43 years old. But you've telling me that the ratings were the lowest they've ever been.
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I'll take it. Right, I'll take your word for it that it was exciting, because I, like many other people, didn't bother to watch. And in fact, the Super Bowl turned in the lowest ratings in 14 years.
I wonder why.
As we were talking about on the Carnivore Radio live podcast on Friday, most of the country does not like Tom Brady, and he took that dislike from the New England Patriots to Tampa Bay. So people did not tune in.
Interesting. I was, I'm always admit when I'm wrong. I thought it was going to be a popular Super Bowl because of the whole Brady factor, 43 years old, the legacy. But, hey, it won't be the first time I'm wrong, Dr. Lopkin. The other thing the other thing that I do have an issue with is the whole politicalization of football. I couldn't believe it. They have the, I guess you could call it a black national anthem before the regular national anthem. It's getting a little, talk about kowtowing. It's a little, little bizarre.
I think that's also a big part of the drop in ratings, because
Agreed.
they're kowtowing to politically correct and the left. But the fact of the matter is that's not their core audience. Their core audience is not going to turn out for that. So they're kowtowing to an audience that isn't going to watch them no matter what they do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's, what it is? It's someone I knew a long time ago talked about the unintended consequences of an MBA. So you have a bunch of suits that are kind of out of touch, having some caviar and some Chardonnay. They've lost touch with who's really watching the NFL, and I think it's proven out. And this is not the first time, the first year that the ratings are down, by the way. We all know that.
Sorry, it's not. And it's more than just that MBA factor. We've seen in a number of industries what happens when you kowtow to political pressure, when that pressure isn't coming from your core audience. And the example I always give is toy manufacturers. For a long time, people were complaining that the manufacturers of action figures did not include enough female figures. There weren't female action figures for girls to buy. And there was a big uproar about it. Well, what happened? Mattel and DC Comics decided they were going to address this. And they came out with a DC superhero girls line, which was all female action figures. They did a huge licensing program for the Wonder Woman movie. And if you went into a Toys R Us just before they closed and they were trying to liquidate their inventory, there were aisles and aisles of these toys because nobody bought them. Because the people who were complaining that there weren't enough female action figures weren't the people who were buying action figures.
I like that. That's an excellent point. So, again, I thought the whole legacy of Brady would draw an audience, but I think it's a combination of what you're saying is Brady having a lot of people that don't like him, and people actually maybe compounded on that, feel that he betrayed the Patriots. But I think it's a whole soup, and part of the soup is also the uber political correctness that's been going on for like 3 or 4 years now. You've also mentioned you wanted to talk about CNN. That's an interesting topic. What do you got for us?
Yeah, we've talked about CNN's future on a number of podcasts, and it turns out that Jeff Zucker, who runs CNN, is stepping down at the end of his contract. So he will be leaving CNN in 10 months. And there's a lot of speculation over whether or not AT&T is going to keep CNN. They got it when they acquired Time Warner. And now it looks like they may want to get rid of it and not have it as part of the company. And it's interesting because you're seeing, as more and more people go to streaming, you're seeing these news organizations sort of walk away from the more liberal news media that is part of corporate ownerships. NBC has come out with NBC News Now, which is a 24/7 streaming channel on news that's not the liberal MSNBC. AT&T may be looking to sell CNN. So I think you're looking at the blowback of from liberal media, because the owners know without Trump as an enemy, the ratings for these are just going to fall off a cliff.
I would agree, but sometimes you're in the right place at the right time. Jeff Zucker was talentless. I remember, it's a long time ago, in the early 90s, I used to watch CNN religiously. I mean, was a Crossfire, Larry King. It was excellent. It's unwatchable now. They got Cuomo, who's like a deer in the headlights, probably an IQ of like 70, and the list goes on.
Well, Jeff Zucker we've talked about this, he's got a huge history of failing upward. He took the NBC network from first place to the basement. CNN did have a ratings boom under him, but honestly, I think that's more the anti-Trump factor than anything Zucker did.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You had one more item on the docket for us. What's that, Dr. Lopkin?
Well, of course, we've got the second Trump impeachment going on. And what I found really interesting was that the Senate had to vote whether or not it was constitutional to impeach Trump after he's left office. And of course, it passed on party lines. And this has, again, become a big joke of our legal system, where impeachment is just a political tool and no longer what it was supposed to be.
I think also it's beyond that. I agree with everything you're saying, but it's also a big nothing burger. I mean, I think people have tuned out. What Trump did was ridiculous, let's be honest. But he's gone. It's going nowhere, and I think there's not really a big interest unless you're a uber left person.
Yeah, unless you're still suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, it seems to have fallen off in terms of attention. But the basic fact of the matter is the Democrats have no evidence to impeach him on. And the one thing they're hanging their hat on is the video where he tells people to march on the Capitol. And if you actually watch the entire video, rather than just the clip that MSNBC and CNN showed, he actually specifies protest peacefully. So their own evidence actually clears him of the charges.
Well, did that come into play the first time? No. So why should it do it this time?
Well, no, it's all politics, and again, the Democrats don't have the votes to impeach him. They would need, at this point, 16 Republicans to flip and vote guilty. And while, like the first time, there are 5 Republicans that may do it, that still leaves them far short of what they need to convict. So this is all going to go nowhere.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Thank our listeners, and we'll be live on Friday. We're going to have a little bit of a Super Bowl recap, and then we have someone that is in the area of dog behavior, canine behavior, and training. So should be an interesting show, and people can tune in live, can't they?
They can tune in live Friday at 4 at blogtalkradio.com/Carnivore Radio. And remember, you can always call into the live podcast and be part of the conversation.
Thank you, Dr. Lopkin. Thank our listeners. We'll see you Friday. Take care.
See you then.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week on carnivoreradio.com, exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast Store, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.